We are just waiting to go live. Let me know, Jeremy, when you see it on your end. I see it
Mm-hmm.
coming up now on Instagram. All right. Let me know when you see it.
I don't quite see it yet on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Normally takes, I think, 20 seconds longer. But hi, everyone. Welcome. If you are trickling in, welcome to our Friday Career Accelerator Q&A. If you are new here, we're really glad to have you. This is where we come together to support you in accelerating your career. If this is your first time joining one of our Career Accelerator Q&As, my name is Tiffany. I am a CEO and career coach where we focus on helping amazing professionals, mid-stage to senior level professionals, accelerate your careers, whether that's in landing new opportunities, accelerating your promotions and income, and really mastering all of the soft skill strategy to really take full control of your career on your terms. So we're so happy to have you here. I'm also joined by our amazing COO, Jeremy. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. So we're going to dive in. And if you have joined us before, you know the drill. We love taking your questions live. This is really informal. We want to make sure that we are helping you take action towards your goals. We are about 4 months out on the year. So, what a perfect moment to come together and make sure you're set up for success in that. We are also streaming live across LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. Jeremy, are you seeing us live on LinkedIn now?
So it isn't working on LinkedIn. There may be a technical issue. Maybe what we could do is post the video, the recording after, if that's possible. But
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to be working right now.
Okay, you want to try refreshing just to see in case, because it shows on my end that we are, but if not, that's totally fine.
Let me see here.
Yeah. Anyways,
Please,
we'll get things going.
let's get
And
going.
we normally like streaming across the platform so that you can join us on the one that is most comfortable for you to ask your questions. So if you are on Instagram, thanks so much, guys, for joining us. If you are joining on LinkedIn, hopefully it's showing up at one point. Not sure why it might not be showing right now. Or from YouTube, welcome, welcome. Okay, well, let's keep it going. And we'll be taking any questions that you guys have. So I know we got a few ahead of time, Jeremy, but I'm just going to also take a quick scan over on Instagram. We have a great group of people joining us over there. Guys, just so you know, drop any questions that you have right there. We'll be able to take them directly live. And if you're joining from YouTube or LinkedIn, you could drop them as well. But let's dive right in, Jeremy. I don't see any just yet. So you could share maybe a couple of the questions we got ahead of time and go from there.
We did. I have 3 questions ready to go.
Oh,
But
okay, sure.
first, so I'm going to read these out. We got these through our email,
Oh,
our Peak Performers newsletter.
okay.
And so I have one question, which is from Gabrielle.
Okay.
And so she's asking or saying, for the third time in a month, my boss has thrown me under the bus during our weekly team status in front of all of my colleagues,
Mm,
picking apart numbers and various KPIs I share. We have a big presentation at the end of September with a few senior leaders. I have a small part to present, and I'm worried she's going to do it again in front of them. Any tips on avoiding that?
yeah.
This is
Oh,
from Gabrielle.
Gabrielle. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Gabrielle. I understand how challenging of a situation that is. And I would recommend one key strategy to implement that will help you address what's already happened and set you up much better going into that very important leadership meeting in a few weeks. So, the first thing, if you haven't already addressed this feedback with your boss, you're going to want to, because clearly they've done it multiple times now, and they will likely continue to do it multiple times unless we address it. I know that can feel uncomfortable, but it is a moment to advocate for yourself of what you're not willing to tolerate under their leadership. And so, what you want to do is possibly start from a place of empathy, of understanding maybe where they're coming from, just to get on the same playing field and lessen any defensiveness that they'd have. You're then going to focus in on the issue of what you've perceived, what you've picked up on, which is them, throwing you under the bus. And by the way, I've been there. It sucks. Empathize a lot with you right now. We've helped a lot of our clients navigate these really tricky waters with success. And then from that piece where you're going to be focusing in on the issue and the consequences that can have that actually would reflect badly on your boss as well, you're then going to finalize with a solution or recommendation of how you propose moving forward. So I'll give you a quick kind of verbatim example of what that can look like, Gabrielle, so you have some good inspiration to go off of. And if for anyone else that's tuning in that's dealt with this, well, please know you're not alone, and hopefully this will help you too. Okay, so the first way that you can approach it is saying something like, I can certainly appreciate you wanting to take a prominent stance in the meeting alongside me as I'm presenting X topics. I do appreciate the support that you give and wanting to bring that forward in our team meetings. Okay. At the same time, so this is where you're now shifting into more of that issue piece. And you're going to say something like, at the same time, I have noticed on multiple occasions now that when I am presenting my part of the work and things that you and I have actually discussed and agreed to ahead of time, that the way it's coming through in the meetings in front of our team is very different. For instance, in our meeting yesterday, when I was presenting this, and you want to give a very specific example so they can't say, oh, I don't remember what you're talking about, make it very recent. So, in our meeting yesterday, when I was presenting X, even though you and I had agreed to the points I was sharing, you actually had shared something completely different that discounted everything that I had just shared. That leaves me feeling very unsettled and less supported by you as my manager. And I also don't believe that sets the right precedent for me in front of my team members. So that's where you're addressing the situation very much more directly with them. And then that's where you're going to share a solution moving forward. You can say, moving forward, I would like us to align on what's going to be said and how I'm going to share it so that there isn't any contradiction in meetings moving forward, and where I can feel your full support as my manager. That way we come at this as a united front instead of looking like we're on different pages. And this is especially important going into our meeting with leadership in a few weeks, where they are going to be counting on us to come with a united vision together, and having that type of alignment is all the more important. And you're going to end with a type of alignment question to make sure they commit to what you're saying. So it could be something like, do you see where I'm coming from on this? Can you support me on that? Do you agree with this approach? You're going to get them to say yes. Okay. Again, I really encourage you to practice this. Try to do it a little bit ahead of time so you don't feel uncomfortable or nervous having the conversation. But having done it firsthand myself, feeling really nervous and having supported over 1,000 clients and navigating conflict and really challenging situations at work with ease, this type of approach works really well, and you just have to practice it to get a little bit more comfortable. Okay, so we're rooting for you, Gabrielle. I know it's not always easy, but what's also not easy is not saying anything and then continuing to be on the brunt of that type of behavior that's only going to hurt your personal brand inside your company. Yeah.
I actually have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
So for all our listeners, one of the things that always impressed me from my previous experience being in the C-suite, after presentations, high stake meetings, whether that's with your direct boss, your boss's boss, leadership teams from abroad that are coming to your headquarters for a quarterly review, one thing that I always capitalized on in my career, and one of the things that we coach a lot of our clients that is always very helpful to them to basically capitalize on those moments with leadership. My question to you, Tiff, is what is one question or one thing that someone could do immediately following one of these meetings to get noticed, to get a handshake, to get their name in front of these leaders that they don't have exposure to as often as their direct boss?
Mm.
Any thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. There's a few ideas. One idea could be if you associate yourself as one of the lead note takers of the meeting, or you're keeping minutes of the meeting, and then you're the one sharing those minutes after to the leaders that were there and the broader team. Well, yes, you might have everyone represented in those minutes, but you're also the one taking charge on that. And it gives you a direct opportunity to have that dialogue with those leaders as a next step. That's one thing that you could do. Another thing you can do is based off of the conversation that, let's say, you've had with one of your leaders in those meetings, is recommend having a follow-up conversation because that part really inspired you, or you'd love to learn more about that and how even beyond this meeting you can further support them in X objective that they've spoken about. And that can be done really informally in like a coffee chat. If it's an in-person setting that you have at work, you can do that more informally. If it's a virtual environment, well, you can maybe book something on their calendar through their executive assistant. But I think just showing that you are very curious and genuinely interested in what they've shared and how you can further contribute to that and strike while the iron's hot is really key. So you don't want to wait weeks and weeks until that from when that meeting took place. You want to do it within like the first few days after while it's fresh and top of mind. And your boss will probably support you in that too, because it's also fresh and top of mind for them. And if it's something that can benefit you and what you're doing in your current work, all the better. So it gives you the exposure, but it also gives you a lot of that visibility and recognition as well. Another thing that you can do is even just have proactive updates to share on what you've discussed in that meeting periodically following that meeting with those leaders. So if let's say you presented 3 core topics that you had and you gave the updates up to that point, and then you were going to have, another meeting with them in 2 months from now to share where you're at. Well, don't wait until 2 months. Always keep tabs on those core priorities so that if you bump into your manager or your boss's boss or their boss's boss's boss, and there's an opportunity to share something, they might not prompt it from you, but you could say something like, "Oh, Jeremy, I'm really happy to have bumped into you today," or "I'm really happy that we had a little time at the end of this meeting. I wanted to share some quick updates from what I had discussed with you last month. My boss is very well aware. Things are moving very positively towards XYZ." And you just give these quick little updates that shows you're in control, you own your work, you're on top of it, and it gives you those added little nuggets of opportunities for exposure and visibility. So those are definitely a few things that come to mind, but it's really important and not something to feel intimidated by. Actually, just on that note, Jeremy, if it's okay, I want to just share because we made an exciting announcement today that in actually a few short weeks, we're going to be hosting our most popular event. Always is one that is so favored by our audience, our community. It's actually called Career Growth Accelerator. It is a free masterclass. And in that masterclass, I'm even integrating a lot of new content just based off what I'm seeing working really well for our clients this year in 3xing their promotions, securing 30 to 50% raises on average this year, and also landing their new opportunities in 90 days or less. We're going to be breaking that all down for you in this masterclass, sharing our proven strategies, communication templates, and how-tos so that with this last 4 months of the year, we want to make them your best, guys. This is the time. We don't want you to sit idle or feel frustrated or struggle with where you're at. And if you're like, "Oh my gosh, it's already September, I'm not really where I hope to be by now," that's okay. I'm telling you, we can turn this around, but you just need the right support to get you there. So thank you so much, Jeremy, for already sharing the link over in our LinkedIn comments. That's great. You can go ahead and register directly for it. You can also, if you're on Instagram joining us right now, just comment career on the live. So just comment career and I will send you the details to save your spot. We've just opened it up, but normally seats fill up really quickly. So I would recommend saving your spot sooner than later because it's going to be an amazing 90-minute event in and out. And there's multiple time options that you can choose from as well. Okay, so I just want to get that out of the way because we're really excited. We're planning for that very much behind the scenes for all of you. Does that help, Jeremy? I'm going to just
I
go
think
back
that's
on
great.
Instagram and see if there's any other questions that have come through that I missed. And again, guys, please don't be shy. This is your time with us. If there's any questions that you have tied to your career, any challenges you're facing, any things that you're like, "I've just always wanted to know how to do that and I don't know how to do that," this is an open book here. We want to make sure that we're removing that guesswork for you to really support you with where you're at. Okay. I see Laura is saying, "I don't have sound." Do you guys hear me okay over on Instagram? If you can just drop me a yes, that would be great. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I see some people marking in career, so I guess you heard me say that. So hopefully if you guys can let me know over on the Instagram front if you can hear me okay, that would be great. We do have our volume on. Everything seems to be set up, even though a few technical issues this morning. Okay, let's come back to one of your other questions, Jeremy. I know you said a few came through and we are getting some yeses over on Instagram, so that's great. Okay, let's
Yeah,
keep going.
so we got a question from Ria. So I'm just going to read it. It's a little long. So, hey, Tiffany, as you previously did in your career, I currently work for a beauty company. And my role now is in events and PR, but I'm looking to move into marketing.
Mm.
I'm interviewing for an internal position as a marketing director, had two internal interviews that went well, and will meet the VP next week. What do you
Oh.
think will be different between the hiring manager interview that I had versus this one with the VP of the division?
Oh, yeah.
This is from Ria.
Yeah, that's a great question. Apologies, guys, if you see some reflection on my face. I realize it's coming from my other room. So we're getting a little bit of a prism effect today. I love that question for you, Ria. So, yeah, there's actually some pretty important distinctions between the hiring manager and the VP. For the VP, that's going to be a little bit more oriented around the details of the role and how that plays into their vision of the department. Okay, so with a hiring manager, that might be more focused around like the initial assessment. Do we feel like you have the right skill sets? Do we feel like you fit the right profile of the main competencies to deliver in this role? For them, it's kind of that sanity check to say, okay, yeah, we already believe that Ria is a great candidate for this role. That's why we want her to move on to now meet the VP. Once you meet with the VP, they're a little bit more matter of fact about things where they know, okay, how this role fits into the bigger picture, what their priorities are for the role. So you're going to want to be really prepared to go a little bit more granular in those particular conversations with the VP and speak more to like how you would deliver very much on these aspects of the role as being part of the team. You're going to probably want to ask some questions around their priorities, their objectives, where they see the biggest challenge that they'd want you to tackle coming into that role, how they see this role fitting into the bigger picture of the brand, what is their vision for this role in the next 6 months. So you really want to kind of get their viewpoint of you coming into this and show them that you're thinking a few steps ahead, that it's not just about you right now, but how you can also really grow in this role and develop in this role in a way that will meet their needs and the type of person that they want to fill in those shoes. So that's where you see the little bit of the distinction, because the HR manager might still have some of those questions, but it's probably going to be a little bit more around initial assessment fit, just to get a sense if this is the right next step for you or if they'd recommend moving you in a slightly different direction. I will say it's a great sign that you're already moving on with the conversation to the VP, having done this myself multiple times and supporting our clients on this very regularly. That's normally like the final stage. They're one of the key, if not the ultimate remaining decision maker that will seal the deal for this. What I will say as a little pro tip for you, Ria, is try to speak to other people in your organization who have made that shift already. That way, ahead of speaking to the VP, you can already gain insights as to what's helped them make that transition. And you can know more specifically the insights you want to raise about yourself in that conversation with the VP. So, as an example, if let's say you've done that due diligence and you're speaking with your VP, you could say something like, I've actually had the pleasure of speaking with, four different contexts inside the company who have made this very similar transition to myself. And some of the key themes I picked up on them that helped them in that transition was XYZ. And I do believe I'm very well positioned for that because of the work I've already been focusing on this, da 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 da. So you're actually improving the perceived readiness level in their eyes and the VP's eyes of moving you into that next step because you've actually done your homework and realized what it takes to get there. You're not just waiting to get into the role to start doing those things. You're showing that you've already started doing this for the last 4 months, 5 months, maybe 8 months, right? And that's going to help position you really well. So I hope that gives a little context of how you can differentiate both those meetings. Yeah, great
That's great.
question. Any follow-ups from you, Jeremy? Because I know you've also done quite a few of interviews in your roles as VPs and CEO. Any additional thoughts you'd want to share to Ria, kind of on the receiving end of meeting with someone like that at that stage of the interview process?
It's a great question. It's a nuanced question. Obviously, all companies are different, but there are still some time tested, true best practices. And just a reminder for everyone, this is one of the things that we teach all of our clients. We shared this in our recent Nail Your Interview workshop, which is fundamentally everyone is evaluating really two things. One is this person someone I want to work with? Do I see this person on the team? Do I see this person growing within the team, the department, the organization? One. And then two, is this person, and we always say it like this, the solution to the problem, to Tiffany's point, does this person have the ability to drive business results for, again, this team, for this department, for this brand? Beyond that, for those that are trying to accelerate with internally, move up, break through, into more senior roles, one of the things that you want to consider over a longer period of time, and this is something you want to do proactively, business leaders are making decisions many quarters out. They're not changing, their mind on a daily basis for big moving, hires, big brand decisions, things like that. Budgeting, future proofing the business, things like that are done well in advance. That being said, what you want to do proactively is every now and then have coffee chats with your leaders, with bosses, with leaders from other divisions, and you want to empathically try to understand what's top of mind to all of the leaders within your organization, their leadership style, what they're looking for internally, and what biggest opportunities they want to pursue, whether selfishly or within the bigger dynamic of the company, and play into that as the problem solver for that X. And so as you start doing this proactively, you start to create essentially a reputation, one of being inquisitive, one of being interested on driving results, not just for these leaders, but for the organization. It's a skill. And we would encourage you to think about doing this proactively. And it could really start with just, small coffee chats, trying to understand the temperaments, the styles, and so on of how these leaders lead their teams as people managers. So that's something you'd want to consider.
Those are great insights, Jeremy. Thanks for sharing that. We did get another great question over from Instagram, so I'm going to take that from Abdul. Thanks so much for your question, Abdul. How can I set boundaries and prioritize self-care while pursuing my career and be the solution to the company that's not growing? So how can I set boundaries and prioritize self-care while pursuing my career and be solution to the company that's not growing? Okay, so if I'm understanding this well, it's a balance of protecting yourself and your boundaries, but also pursuing your goals, maybe in a company setting that's not really giving you the growth that you want there. So let me know if I'm understanding that well. I believe that's the case. Great question, by the way. And Abdul, if you haven't already, definitely comment career because you're going to benefit a ton from our Career Growth Accelerator Masterclass coming up. We're going to be diving into quite a bit of this. Okay. The first and foremost, and I love that you're talking about boundaries and self-care because we're huge on this with our clients in terms of accelerating your career, but without burning yourself out in the process, because that's just not sustainable. Okay. And so what you probably want to do already is understand where are you having those clashes with your own boundaries and self-care. One thing that we really like encouraging in working with our clients to get kind of a shift perspective on this that seems to really help them is put your needs first and work your work schedule around that versus the other way around. What I mean is, so often because work takes up a huge part of our life, most of our Monday to Friday, if it's a typical work schedule, right, that is pretty dominating in our day to day. And then we end up focusing on that and prioritizing that as the majority of our week. And so all of our personal goals and priorities kind of fall to the wayside. Maybe the exercise, maybe the hobbies, maybe time with family. It's like not as quality as it can be. Whereas if you start shifting your planning, Abdul, moving forward of saying, okay, well, already I'm in a company that's not really my cup of tea. This is an opportunity for me to reprioritize myself. Start moving forward by looking at every upcoming week and first and foremost, plotting in, whether literally tangibly in your calendar in like time blocks, but plotting in physically or mentally on your calendar, what do I need to prioritize for myself every single day? Is it, me time in the morning? Is it time to go for walks? Is it time to exercise? Is it just time to have a proper breakfast and dinner? Like maybe it's time to binge Netflix in the evening. Like whatever it is that you love to do, prioritize that first and commit to it just as much as you would a work meeting, right? I mean, well, we won't miss a work meeting, but we'll easily miss things that are important for us and that will hinder our motivation levels at work because we're compromising that on the personal front. Okay. So I want you to start thinking about your weeks from a planning standpoint and time management standpoint, more on what is it that I want to prioritize for me. You plot those in at the ideal times that you want them to happen. And then your work schedule revolves around that. So if you have to shift when certain work meetings happen or reinforcing boundaries at work, where you could even use the verbiage, Abdul, if you want, knowing that we're in the home stretch of the year, that you want to be really intentional of where you're putting your time and energy. You want to make sure that for the business, you're focusing on the right things. And that might lead you to have to say no to certain things that you've said yes to before. You're kind of setting the expectation so that people you work with aren't like, but you always used to do this, Abdul. Why are you not doing it anymore? Right? You want to set the tone of, well, this is why I'm not doing it anymore. I need to reorient or refocus my energy. And so, probably for the foreseeable future, I won't be as inclined to do that in the way that I did before. I'm still happy to help on XYZ so long as it fits well into my schedule and doesn't hinder the other priorities that I have. So those are some really tactical things that you can already do in terms of, pursuing your career and this being the solution to a company that's not growing. I think there's a little bit of a few elements to that part of your question. Is the company that's not growing a function of like internal difficulties, or is it a company that you don't really see yourself growing with? If it's a company that you don't necessarily see yourself growing with, just ask yourself also why that is. Was there a point in time where you did see yourself growing there and now you're like, it's just not that way anymore? What changed? Really try to reflect of, was it the culture? Was it leadership changes? Is it restructuring? Do you find that the nature of your workload has become very redundant or laborious in nature versus bringing more value to your development goals? Because if it's those things, these can often be rectified with proper communication inside, where you advocate for your goals and take control of that a little bit better. And we're going to go into that a lot more depth in our Career Growth Accelerator free masterclass coming up. But if, to your other point, if I'm viewing it that way, that it's a company that's just not really growing and you're like, but I've got big goals, Tiffany. Like I want to do big things and I just don't see that happening here anymore. No worries. Better that we recognize that now so that you can start building your inroads for external opportunities. And Jeremy knows this very well. We help our clients with this very much. It's been a huge focal point that's helped quite a few of our members just land their new roles in the last 2 weeks alone. And we've leveraged a lot of networking and intentional relationship building strategies so that you are validating decision making of what else is possible for you. You're getting inspiration from others who might be in that career path that you're aspiring for. And best case scenario, you're also building referrals and advocates that can get your foot in the door outside of online applications that everyone else is doing. Okay. So you already want to start thinking intentionally about that, Abdul. Maybe it's not a tomorrow thing for you, but you're like in the next 2 to 3 months, I kind of want to make my move. Like I'd ideally like to be somewhere else before the end of the year. So now is the time to start making those inroads. Activate your existing network, go through your network on LinkedIn, see where people are working, what their roles are, already start re-engaging with your active connections. And then if you're looking to do more cold outreach for new connections tied to some of your target organizations that will deliver on the growth that you want, you can absolutely do that as well. I would just say, moral of my story is take action, be proactive here, and know that you can set those boundaries, you can prioritize yourself, and you can still go after your goals in a way that's sustainable for you. Let me know if that helps. I know it's a big question. That's why I'm saying we're going to go into this in a lot more depth, even in our free Career Growth Accelerator Masterclass coming up. So, for anyone joining us live right now on Instagram, if you haven't already, please comment career and I'll send you the details to join us. And if you're joining us over on LinkedIn or YouTube, you should see the link in the comments. And if not, you can actually just go to my website and sign up from there. You'll see it at the top. It's www.tiffanyhuman.com, and you'll be able to save your seat. Okay, that's a good question, Jeremy. I know you've done such a great job also, not just on our team, but with your former teams of having really high retention and having team members that just don't quit or don't want to quit. And I think that is a function of not just your leadership style, Jeremy, but also how you really help have that balance of pursuing their goals internally, but also protecting their boundaries. And you've been really good about that. Is there any additional insights you want to share to Abdul as he's facing this kind of pivotal moment of maybe not wanting to grow with his current company or the company not growing itself?
It's a great question, and if I may, it'll actually segue into another question that we've received by email, and hopefully it doesn't interfere with anything coming in from Instagram. But it's a tough market out there, everyone. It's challenging, and there's a lot of layoffs. People are maybe unhappy in their current roles, and one of the things that we work with all of our clients in doing is being proactive in taking control of their careers. Peak performers capitalize on the things that they want to achieve for themselves. And another way of saying this is don't let things happen to you, or don't focus on the things that are happening to you. Focus on the things that you could do. So whether it's moving to a new organization because you're no longer growing, or if I may, I'll just kind of segue into this question we got, Tiff, and
Yeah.
they kind of work in tandem. So this is a question from, I apologize in advance if I'm not pronouncing this properly, Anjan. So Anjan is asking, hi Tiffany, I currently work for a big tech company out of the US. Our office has already had 2 rounds of layoffs this year, not in my department, and I'm worried that another one may be coming. What
Mm.
are some things I should consider or do in case that happens? And this is a great question. And Jen, we're sorry to hear that. It's a tough market out there, but what our clients are doing is really safeguarding their potential by being proactive. So maybe we could touch on the answer by telling
Yeah.
everyone, what are some of the things that we will tell people, whether there's a layoff or whether it's acceleration, or they're not happy in their current roles. What are those proactive things that people could do?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is all the more important, Enjen, to be prepared. I love that you're already thinking about this, that even though it hasn't touched you or your team directly, I also know it could be very destabilizing. We've supported quite a few of our clients who have still managed to progress very well in their organizations, but there's been a lot of movement. There's been a lot of turnover. There's been a lot of layoffs that wasn't affecting their team, but it still affects morale, right? You're like, oh, but what does that mean? And especially if you start seeing some of those layoffs happening at a senior level where you're like, okay, well, if they're letting go of some pretty senior talent here, what does that additionally mean for me? So it's good that you're already thinking about what that can look like. Now, it might not mean anything. Maybe, you won't be affected, but you want to be ready. You don't want to be getting ready when it's happening. You already want to start preparing for that. So with that in mind, there's a few things that you can do. I'd say the first one is already start really activating and building on your networking externally. Okay. No one is going to fault you for that. This is your career. You have to be selfish. You have to take control of it, as Jeremy shared. And so there is no harm at all, Enjan, to go through your network on LinkedIn, build up some maybe exploratory conversations, re-engage, reconnect, see where people are at in the tech space, which if that's the field and industry that you want to stay in, and just let them know that you've really very excited about what they've been doing in their work, or congrats on their recent role, or it sounds like they're doing some pretty amazing things and you'd love to maybe catch up and learn more about what's coming up for them as you're also possibly exploring some next steps, right? And so you just kind of keep it more from that place of respect and admiration of what they're doing that will allow them to be more inclined to speak with you as well. And hopefully that will lead to those exploratory conversations that our clients have been doing really effectively, that opens up those doors and leads one thing to the other of, oh, well, we are maybe going to have some movement on our team. I can put you in touch with so and so. And it starts building that behind the scenes. Because, and Jen, you don't want to go on your own LinkedIn and say, I'm open for a new job now when you're actively working, especially if your company's just undergone layoffs. You'll be the next on the chopping block, right? And so you have to do this a little bit more discreetly where they can't see that, but no one will ever fault you for building your network. I was actually just telling one of our one-on-one clients this morning that your network is your number one currency, because regardless of what happens in the economy, whatever happens in terms of layoffs, restructures, you name it, no one can take your relationships away from you. Those are yours. Those are yours for life. And so the more that you invest in those relationships with a good win-win, meaningful energy, the more that they're going to be open to helping you when you really need that help. So you don't want to go to these people saying, hey, by the way, I'm looking for a new opportunity now. Can you help me? Be like, well, that just feels like you're asking for favors. You want to build that relationship continue building that rapport so that when it does come to the point where you're ready to maybe make an ask, it feels very fluid for both of you. Okay? That's one really important thing. The second important thing I would say, Anjen, in your company is have active conversations with your manager about what these layoffs can insinuate for you. You can share that, you're hearing trickles, whether that's true or not, that there might be another round. Obviously, that's creating a little bit of uncertainty and, nerves of what does that mean for you and your department, and also what, the next few months might look like. And just having a very open and honest conversation with your boss, which they will absolutely understand. They're probably feeling the exact same thing, right? Of understanding, what does this mean? Should we already be looking at how we are relooking our work, or how can we position our department to be even more strategic so that it's seen more as high value for the organization if there is another round of layoffs, right? That way that you guys are not as affected. Are we already thinking about that? What are some of the focal areas of our leaders right now that is top of mind, and how can we better align our work with that? So these are just really proactive ways that you can start thinking about safeguarding your role there. We can never really control what's going to happen, but it's definitely going to help your chances of solidifying your role internally, at least in the interim, whether you choose to stay there or go somewhere else. So those are two really important things I would say, and Jen, as a starting point. But also, please feel free to reach out to us and our team. Like, we would love to speak with you. I can tell you we've helped a lot of our clients this year navigate through layoffs and bounce back into new roles within 4 to 8 weeks on average. We've helped them accelerate their growth in organizations, even ones that were undergoing layoffs and structure changes, a lot of income growth along the way. So if that's something that you're really looking for more help on and more one-on-one support of working with me and our team, like, we would love to help you with that. You could actually go ahead and just book a free call with us. I'll have Jeremy maybe drop the link here. And if you are joining for whatever reason, maybe over on Instagram, if Jen, you're there, I'm not sure if you're joining us live today because you sent the question ahead of time. Anyone over on Instagram, you could actually just comment call on the live, and I'll share the details to book the free clarity call with our team. This is an important point of the year. You want to make sure you're getting ahead of it. You want to get ahead of companies and their timelines. It's not just about when you feel ready to make your next move. You got to be very cognizant of when companies are making those decisions. Jeremy, you referred to that earlier. It's such an important point I want to reinforce because, just because you're thinking, okay, I'll do this maybe in 2 months, or let me see how the next few months pan out. Well, that's all great. But what if your target company that you would have loved to get into has already made their hiring decisions, and now, sorry, there's no
Mhm.
new opportunities for the next 6 months. You've just missed that entire boat. So again, these are a lot of the themes we're going to be diving deeper into in my Career Growth Accelerator Masterclass coming up. That's free, guys. 90 minutes. You got to be there. It's going to be an amazing event. It's our most popular event that we've even added more content into to help you out in this challenging market. So we'd love to have you guys there. I know Jeremy dropped the link already. And if you are joining from Instagram, just drop career, comment career right on the live, and I'll send the details to you. Okay. Any other thoughts there, Jeremy? I think I see another question coming through here. So I'm going
Just
to just pull it back
just
up.
a quick note for Anjan, and this is, very granular, but hopefully it's helpful to you. There are always opportunities in any type of market environment. You just need to perspective shift. So one of the things you could do is join a community in the tech scene. If you are in the U.S., I mean, there's newsletter communities like Lenny Rachitsky's newsletter, and I think if you purchase it, you get access to a huge community of PMs and engineers where you could chat with them and proactively network with folks there. The other thing you could do is just proactively reach out to founders and various startups within a space that you believe in. And typically, smaller organizations are not looking at the same type of layoff structure as big tech specifically. And then a last thing that you may want to consider is just look for any fundraising events. So, for example, yesterday or 2 days ago, one of OpenAI's co-founders started a new AI company called Safe Super Intelligence, I think. Typically when startups are raising capital, it's to scale, it's to grow, it's to accelerate. And especially in tech, typically that'll be, from a talent perspective related. So you also want to keep your ear out, for fundraising events new capital raises, and then reach out to people within your network, the founders, the teams there, to see if there's any openings off a fresh round of fundraising. So just some small
Yeah.
little tips for you.
The great insight. Thanks, Jeremy. Hopefully that helps you, and Jen. You got to keep us posted. We're rooting for you. We know those times are tough, but hopefully this guidance has helped you feel a little bit more confident in that. I also see a great comment here from Laura in our Instagram channel of keeping your network alive opens doors when you are not actively looking and is critical when you are. Totally. I'm going to give a quick analogy, right? Okay. I love this analogy. I think it'll drive the point home. Imagine going on a first date with someone, and literally within the first 5 minutes of the conversation, the other person is asking you to like marry them, or they're just coming on way too strong. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're the person I've been waiting for my whole life. I feel like we're soulmates. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, we're just getting started here. Like, I want to run for the door right now. Think of that when it comes to networking, right? If you're reaching out to connections who, yes, you might even know, you might be acquaintances with, but you haven't talked to in some time, and you're coming at them being like, I need a job. Here's my resume. Hopefully you can help me. It's like, whoa, like that's just way too much of a heavy lift. They are going to be turned off before even having the chance to help you. And so rather, and it's just worked so well for our clients, of coming from a place of admiration, respect, and flattery of what the other person has done, what are some recent wins, what's the recent roles that they've been in, some new news that you can pick up on, even just asking about their summer now that we're kind of coming into the fall period. Just great ways to gateway into conversations that get them warmed up, get them open to talk about themselves. People love talking about themselves. So if you're giving them that opportunity to do that and commending them for something, I'm telling you, this is like the silver bullet that just is going to open up those doors and will eventually lead you to be able to have the conversation about where you're at, what's coming up for you, because they're going to ask you, since you've been so kind in asking them questions and commending them on where they're at or sharing what you respect about them and their career path. So don't rush these things, guys, because it can really burn a bridge in your network before it has a chance to truly flourish. And you don't want to be in that boat, not when you do really need them at one point. Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks so much, Laura, for sharing that. We couldn't agree more. I feel like say it louder for those in the back. Okay. Any other questions, guys? I mean, we have such a great group joining here over on Instagram. I'm still not sure if it's working over on LinkedIn, so really apologize for that, but we will do our very best to get that replay loaded up. And for anyone who is watching, we do normally load up our replays on LinkedIn. So if you're not already following us on LinkedIn, please go ahead and follow me there, Tiffany Human. You can scroll down and see all of our latest posts, and you'll be able to pull this up really easily. And by the way, you can see the previous ones that we posted. But I'm seeing some very familiar names here, and I know we have our regulars, which is great to have. Thank you guys for taking time out of your busy week to join us. It really means a lot. Okay. I think I covered all these questions. Did we cover the ones that came through ahead of time
Mhm.
too, Jeremy?
You
Okay.
did.
So, I mean, maybe we'll give just a few last moments if there's any last questions, but I'm totally good with wrapping up sooner. Okay, we do have one question here from Instagram from Main Function Official. How to get a job with zero work experience. So I'd probably need a little bit more context of what kind of role, what kind of field you're going into, but I will position this if, especially for more young professionals, because I get that question often when you're coming out of school, you've just graduated, and you're like, well, some of these entry level jobs are saying like I need like 5 years of experience, but it's like, but how do you have that when you're just graduating? So a few different things that you can do. Keep in mind that experience doesn't just come down to full-time professional work. You probably have experiences that can lend itself well to a role that you want to go for and the transversal skills that you've built up in that role. Maybe it's part-time work that you've done, maybe it's volunteer work that you've done, maybe it's some academic work or committees that you've been a part of that shows your ability to do XYZ. So try to broaden your view of like work experience. And, I would say when in doubt, if you're open to the idea, and again, I don't have full context here of what kind of role you're going for, internships are a great starting point. You could do a paid internship, you could do a free internship. Obviously, paid is better if you can do that because it's the whole point of an internship is to gain that experience. Ideally, if you can do that even while doing your studies, that's only going to further accelerate your path into full-time employment because you will have done that prior to graduation. But let's say you've already graduated and you're having trouble getting a role because you haven't had as much work experience, showing openness for, part-time roles or internships that could be a great fit for your building up your skill set that will then position you better for a full-time position is a great option. So I don't know if you've considered that, but I would certainly recommend looking into that. I would also recommend, in the spirit of networking, of speaking to people who are in the work or field that you want to get into and learn more about their path that got them there, because at one point they also had very little to no work experience. So even just learning from them of saying, okay, you're kind of where I want to be in 3 years from now. I'm your 3 year younger self. What can I already start doing that will help me get there? Any recommendations or suggestions that can help set me up well in terms of my candidacy? So there's insight and information all around, but I would recommend being proactive there once again and getting out there and either finding internship or lower skill work opportunities that can support you in building up your skills, and then your accolades and track record in return, or also speak to people who have taken that path and that you can learn from to know what is it that you're really missing that will close that gap sooner. Okay. All right. Any last thoughts from you, Jeremy? I think we're kind of wrapping up on the questions on our front.
No, I think we're good.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Well, we want to thank you guys so much for joining us here again today. As a reminder, we do go live for our weekly Career Accelerator every Wednesday and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, normally across LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm not sure if LinkedIn gave us a little bit of trouble today, but it's okay. We'll have it figured out for next week. But either which way, we're really grateful for your guys' time, and we hope that you found this useful as well. Before you hop off, again, if you haven't already had a chance to register for our upcoming free Career Growth Accelerator Masterclass, we'd love to have you there. Again, I know Jeremy dropped it over here, but we'll make sure that it's over on our LinkedIn. If you're joining from Instagram, just comment career before you hop off so that we can send you those details today and you can save your spot. And we definitely hope to see you guys there. It'd be amazing. It's going to be a really, really important event, very timely in this moment of the year, because I'm going to be walking you through the proven strategies, how-tos, and communication templates that our clients are using this year to triple their rate of promotion, secure 30 to 50% raises on average, and also land their new opportunities in 90 days or less. So these are life skills, guys, that are not only very important for right now in this extremely challenging market, but also to set you up for accelerated success well beyond that. And we can't wait to have you there. And as a last point, if you are looking for more hands-on do it with you support, we'd always love to help. You can easily get in touch with me and my team. You could go ahead and book a free call with us and we can share more of how we can support you in your goals. We'll make sure that the link is saved over on LinkedIn. But again, you could book that directly from my website, www.tiffanyhuman.com. Or if you're joining on Instagram, just comment call and I'll send you the details for that too. All right. Thanks so much, Jeremy. That was a good one. We got through quite a
Love
bit
it.
today. Thank you for joining us. I always love having our amazing team here to support and bring to some different complementary perspectives from a leadership standpoint. So we wish you all a wonderful rest of your Friday and a great weekend. And we will see you back here next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.